Welcome to another video, ladies and gentlemen. I have taken my time to cover this topic concerning Sean Combs, just so that people could see, I guess quite possibly, the difference in my take from everything else that they've seen and heard on YouTube, Instagram, or whatever social media platform that you may frequent. The reason for me doing so is that I felt the need not to necessarily jump in on the pile to kick him while he's down. Right now, I'm not here to defend his actions, to say he's innocent or guilty. That's not the purpose of this video. My purpose is to say something quite plainly, that my belief is that there's a lot more to this than just Sean Combs. Right? And the reason for me saying that is quite simple. If you read the indictment, right? If you just read what is here on the screen, which I'm going to do, you have to start asking yourself several questions. So let me let you take a look. So Sean Combs charged in Manhattan federal court with trafficking and other federal offenses, right? Let's read right here. Damian Williams, the United States Attorney for the Southern District of New York, and William S. Walker, the acting special agent in charge of the New York Field Office of Homeland Security Investigations, announced that Sean Combs, aka Puff Daddy, aka P. Diddy, aka PD, aka Love, was arrested last night and charged in a three-count indictment with racketeering, conspiracy. That's very important, this part right here. Trafficking and transportation to engage in prostitution. The indictment unsealed today alleges that between 2008 and the present, Combs abused, threatened, and coerced women and others, and led a racketeering conspiracy that engaged in trafficking, forced labor, kidnapping, arson, bribery, and obstruction of justice, among other crimes. Combs is expected to be present in Manhattan federal court this afternoon before Magistrate Judge Robin F. Tarnowski. Okay? And I guess this is a statement made by the U.S. Attorney. What immediately concerned me after reading this was this part right here. You see, when there's a conspiracy, that means there are multiple people involved. But in this case, we only have one person, right, who is allegedly the head that they're going after. Now, from my understanding, there's so much to break down in here. If you're from New York, or you know anything about the music industry, you know anything about Diddy, Puff been that guy for a long time. So to say that this is the other part that concerned me, this 2008 part right here, that's when it started, right? How many of you remember when he launched the clothing line Sean John? Remember that? You know how long ago that was? Let's take a look. So as we can see here, and all this information is obviously available online. This is not stuff that I'm pulling out of my head. The figures that I'm going to mention, as well as the dates, you can check them for yourself. Puffy had Sean John, which released 10 years prior to the date that is on the indictment. This clothing line, right, from the time it was launched, had an annual, I guess, profitability of $100 million. For those of you that are a bit slow, that's 9 figures, right? A 1 with 8 zeros behind it. At least 100 million. That is a lot of money. That's the first thing that kind of caught my eye, because, you know, between 98 and 08, I partied pretty hard along the I-95 corridor. And so that's coming from the Canadian border all the way down to Miami, right? Pretty long stretch. So everywhere from Boston University, Connecticut, Newark, New Jersey, and other places, Patterson, New York, right? All 5 boroughs, DC, Baltimore, Wilmington, Delaware, Philly, VA, the Carolinas, across to Atlanta, Jacksonville, right? Orlando, Miami, even across the water to Puerto Rico, St. Vincent, St. Lucia, right? These were my college years and, a few years after that. With all that partying, right? Sex, drugs, rock and roll, and rap music. I never found myself at a mansion party with Diddy. I never even went to Morehouse College, where he was apparently very popular during those times. Why? I was not interested in chasing celebrity, right? There were a lot of people that would go to these parties simply to rub shoulders and attempt to meet this man. I know that for a fact. Why do I say this? Because Puffy already was wealthy back then. I mean, obviously he didn't have Bill Gates' money, but he was seeing the kind of money that 99% of people don't see. This was long before this alleged '08 beginning of things, right? And we had heard some pretty wild stories back then about the kinds of people that went to those parties, right? And I know this is hearsay, but pretty much everything you're hearing online is hearsay, right? Until this actually goes to court, you hear an actual defense, etc., etc. Everything else you hear is hearsay. Unless this person is willing to sign an affidavit, put it forward, put their name on it, put their reputation, stake it on it, then it's hearsay. But what we heard was that all the women that went there, men included, were people of age that were, trying to rub shoulders with people. Apparently, nobody was being forced to go there, right? I'm just saying that's what I always understood. Everybody that went there knew what they were getting into. Now, for those of you who have probably never traveled to New York, who might see this and have no idea what I'm talking about, you're like, this, record exec guys, If you've been to New York, you probably saw one of these, right? What you're looking at is a billboard with Puff on it. Like, I don't think I have seen many people on a billboard this size. I don't even recall who, if anybody, of some, notability has been on a billboard of this size. Just look at the size of it that I'm talking about. And this is Puff on an advert for Sean John. This is how big this guy was. So when I say people were flocking to him, trying to be around him, this is not an understatement. I mean exactly what I say, because Puff was that dude. Remember, before the dates that they're talking about, we're talking about Biggie, Pac, their ultimate demise, and Puff rising to stardom, right? Production, different groups that he was producing for, etc., etc. Right? Not really relevant there, but we're talking about the 90s, the late 90s, early 2000s, not late 2000s. He was already a big name in the industry. And this clothing line it effectively, how would you say, established him as an entrepreneur, right? Now, I've heard people call Diddy all kinds of names, from monster to names that they've made up. They call him the Diddler, all these other names that they have picked up for him. Why? Because the media, even independent media to a certain extent, they love sensationalism, right? Everybody wants clicks, everybody wants likes, everybody wants subscribers. Hardly anybody is really concerned about the truth. Right? I don't think many people, in all honesty, give two pence about whatever happened at those parties. I certainly didn't. I'm not a person that's interested in what happened at those so-called freak-offs, because like I said, from my college days, the understanding was people that went to these things, they went because they wanted connections, and apparently they knew it was some type of play involved, right? Or pay to play. Not necessarily payola, but, sort of skin trade, essentially. So he has all these labels on him, and then they talk about there was 1,000 bottles of baby oil or whatever, really trying to destroy his character. It is not, I'm not aware that it's a crime to have 1,000 bottles of baby oil in your mansion or in your private home. I'm just saying, might have some sort of slip and slide in there that adults play with. I don't know. Okay, I'm just saying what moment is saying that he had 1,000 bottles of. Can you arrest somebody if they have 1,000 bottles of lube and baby oil? No, you can't. I mean, if they stole it, maybe, right? But if you purchased it, shit, that's your private business. But I have this page up now because with all the names that's being thrown out there, let us get something very clear. These parties were held with the top people in the industry, along with whatever people wanted, to be attached to or hanging on their coat strings. The labels that have gone towards Puff, it does not change reality, right? It doesn't change what happens in this three-dimensional world. Why do I say that? Let's just take a read. What is NamUs? The National Missing and Unidentified Persons System, NamUs, is a national centralized repository and resource center for missing, unidentified, and unclaimed person cases across the United States. So this is nationwide. NamUs helps investigators match long-term missing persons with unidentified remains to resolve cases and bring resolution to families. At any given time, up to 100,000 persons may be reported missing in the United States, with as many as 600,000 reported annually. While many of these individuals are found alive and well, some become long-term missing persons. At the same time, federal, state, and local medical, legal, death investigators are constantly working to provide names to thousands of deceased persons nationwide. Over 11,000 sets of unidentified human remains were held in medical examiner and coroner offices throughout the U.S., according to a 2018 census of medical examiners and coroners. Now, did you catch those numbers? 100,000, 600,000, over here, 11,000. This is the reality that we're dealing with in the U.S. Now, if the DOJ, right, or Homeland Security, or the feds were really interested in making a change in this country, I would say that the people largely responsible for trafficking, to the tune of over 500,000 people, right, with unfortunately thousands meeting their demise, they would try to bring some type of change to this status quo, because it's been like this for years, right? Regardless of the feds talking about, they crack or have convictions 90% why haven't y'all done anything about this? Is it too hard? Is it too difficult? Oh, probably it is. So what does that tell me? That tells me, just by these numbers, Puff is low-hanging fruit, and that's why they went after him. When I say low-hanging fruit, somebody who's visible, that they can make a name for themselves and say, oh yeah, we took this guy down. We're not really doing our job in the broad sense, but let's make a spectacle of this man who's having these freak-offs, right? Even though everybody, they were consenting adults and knew exactly what they were getting into, let us plaster him in the media as some sort of Hannibal Lecter, right? The embodiment of that character. By these numbers, you can see Puff's arrest, it means absolutely nothing. Yeah, it might mean something to some people or a few people who might have, encountered some rough times with him, but in a broad sense, what does it really mean? My suspicion, or I should say intuition, as I stated before, is that there's more to this story than is being told. And that's usually the case with these things when they're made very public. They're very much sensationalized. The feds had Epstein at first. Then supposedly he cut a deal, right? Even though allegedly they had him dead to rights. Cut a deal, somehow he got off. Then they had him again. Then supposedly he has, a little black book essentially for all these names. And then he winds up taking himself out very conveniently, right? So he can't testify to what he knows exactly or precisely or give them all this information on these other people that were participating, right? And all of a sudden it's swept under the rug, very hush hush. But people are so I don't know, like what is it? What is the saying that people use? It's something in the water that dumbs down the public. That's what they're hoping for, right? That you're not going to ask too many questions. You're going to enjoy the sensationalism. And then the person is going to be taken out. And then you just move on with your life and be like, oh, well, he's dead and gone. So, hey, no big deal, right? The world is a better place without him. Not so fast. This is why, the death of investigative journalism is such a travesty in this country, because even people with the resources to do it, they don't. Right? For fear, I guess, most likely. Right? They have a lot to lose, whether it's financially or otherwise. Right? Nobody wants to stick their toe into the swamp that is legacy media. Right? So rather than, rock the boat or anything, they just, go along to get along. But I have another stat here before I close out that, let's just tackle it briefly. According to federal reports, an estimated 14,500 to 17,500 people are trafficked into the United States annually, though, this is the important part, though the actual number of victims within the country is likely much higher, as many cases go unreported. Did you catch that? The National Human Trafficking Hotline reported 10,360 suspected cases in 2021. Suspected cases. But this is only a fraction. So let's say this number represents anywhere from 10 to 20%. So you multiply this number either by 10 or by 5, and you still have a pretty big number of people, living, breathing human beings. Tell me what exactly Puff getting arrested and sensationalized, splashed over the media has done to bring this number down by any significance. Absolutely nothing. That's the answer. It is estimated that between 15,000 to 50,000 women and children are forced into slavery in the United States every year, and the total number varies widely, as it's very difficult to research. Now, this is what the movie, I guess, Sound of Freedom touched on to a certain extent, right? But it's a big issue. And why do I bring it up? As I said, if the people who are supposedly, right? So supposedly or allegedly doing their job, and they wanted you to believe that they have done something so big by taking in Diddy, these numbers and the people responsible, the parties responsible, these are the people that really need to be brought to justice. My suspicion, and I'll say this in closing, is that he probably has something on somebody who wasn't as powerful as they are now when it was recorded or whatever the case is, right? Maybe he was approached to turn these things over. He didn't do so. They raided his places in hopes of getting their hands on them. They weren't able to find them. So they're like, yo, turn it over or else. And then he's like, no, that's his, you know, that's his ace in the hole. And they're like, all right, so you're going to be arrested. I'm just spitballing here, but it sounds plausible. Who knows what kind of people are those things? I have no idea. Right? Now, it's obvious people that were there, people that were close to him, are not talking. Right? Because we know it wasn't just Puff. Okay? There's a big circle of people from the entertainment industry, whether that be sports, television, music, movies, otherwise, that were at these parties. Nobody is saying a word. Nobody of any import is saying anything. All right? And I think probably that's where he made, his first mistake when that video of him at the hotel with Cassie came out. First thing any good lawyer will tell you is that you have the right to remain silent. Yeah, just HODL. Hold on to dear life, right? For that right. Don't say a word, right? You're not going to get out by coming to give an apology. No, just don't say anything. I know it's difficult for a person in his position, the amount of notoriety he has on him, the spotlight is on him. He's billionaire. He has all these things going on. But if you're really innocent, there's no need to come and make any statement. This is not, South Korea where you got to go before the media and, if you do something and you're one of these people high up, either your parents or the corporation makes you go give an apology so that their shares will be, their shares won't take a hit. But then you still have to go to court and fight it anyway. So why say anything? The truth, whatever it is, let it come out in court and let that be that. The worst thing you can do is go out there and open your mouth, especially if you haven't been properly coached by an attorney who is, trying to do things in your best interest, because I'm pretty sure some of them are snakes, right? Some of them, they're just there to suck you dry of all the wealth that you have accumulated. So you're picking somebody, buyer beware. But as I said, I reserve judgment until, I've seen and heard everything that happens. And, for the people that were there at those freak-offs, like, my only question is, why were you there? What were you doing there? How did you get there? All right, as a person that woke up in different hotel rooms around and along the I-95 corridor, drunk and stupid, blacked out drunk, high on all sorts of high-grade marijuana, from haze to hydro to sour diesel, mixed that with a concoction of Hennessy and Stolichnaya vodka and Belvedere and everything, right? Because these were, hard partying years, right? 98 to 08. What were you doing there? Because I never found myself in a compromising place or position, waking up, butt hurt, people talking about, yeah, did you know what you did last night? Nah, I didn't run with these kind of people. Worst thing that could happen to you is you would wake up with, right, some shaving cream on your face, eyebrows shaved off. If you passed out, somebody used Sharpie, drew a mustache, a beard, some crazy eyebrows for you. Um, you know, dumb shit like throwing a glass of cold water and you passed out on the floor somewhere. Nothing like what these, allegations of people are talking about. But listen, people with a lot of money, they tend to get bored, get into some freaky shit. Understood, right? Even people that don't have money, I have seen them do some freaky shit. Okay? People that ain't got 5 figures to their name. All right. So it is not out of the realm of possibility that a person that has a lot of wealth that would probably, be exponential in terms of what exactly is happening at those mansions. But that's my take on it, man. I'm not gonna call him any names or, throw shade on him. I know this is, basically the moment of truth. Whatever comes out, comes out, but I know it's happened to Michael Jackson, try to throw all these allegations on him, throw dirt on his name, even after he died, right? And if you've seen Candace Owens, she exposed that whole thing. She did a whole breakdown of how they tried to basically shake him down, right? Just for being the good guy, just for trying to be a nice guy, they tried to shake him down. Happened to Cosby, right? Decades up after whatever allegedly happened, right? You have all these wild allegations. There's absolutely no proof, not even eyewitness, nothing that could be corroborated, right? Nothing that can be corroborated. But, if they can get a conviction, then I guess they can do it to anybody. So, if you got some wealth, look out. You might be next. Anyways, I think I made this video long enough. I hope you enjoyed. Feel free to subscribe to the channel, like the video, share the video, comment. Tell me what you think about what I said. Like I said, I'm not here to judge or pass judgment. We all have skeletons in our closet. We've all done some shady shit, to be quite honest. So, like I said, 99% of us ain't got the kind of bread Puff got. So, who knows why people did the things that they did, if they were coerced or not. I don't know. I wasn't there. I can't tell. Until next time, I'm out. Peace.